Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the pregame show brought to you by Swole Sausage Connection, the official tailgate sausage of the Bunkie Panthers. I'm Josh Sauseda, sitting here with Head Coach Jimmie Hillman of the Bunkie Panthers. And after 1 week of high school play, the Panthers come home from Natchitoches 1-0. And, Coach, now you travel the other way down south to take on the St. Louis Saints down there in Lake Charles. But let's go back to week one. First of all, how's it feel to start the season 1-0?
It's good. We talk a lot about having a 1-0 mentality. There's some big games on our schedule, including this week, but we can't win those before we get to them. So it's all about focusing on the opponent that we have. I thought we did that really well against St. Mary's. Came out and executed the way that we were supposed to. It's good to start the season 1-0.
So if you were to give me an overall assessment on week one against St. Mary's, did your offense perform the way you expected? Did defense perform the way you expected? I mean, it was obviously a 39-6, easy win. But give me your overall assessment.
No, I thought both sides of the ball played well. I thought our defense played really well. They have less than 100 yards of total offense, so anytime you can do that defensively, that's really good. Offensively, I thought we did what we do well, which was make big plays when we had opportunities to. Still kind of gelling a little bit offensively, and we did have one turnover, but other than that, I thought the offense played well, but defense is where we're going to hang our hat, and really proud of the way those guys flew around.
Let's talk about special teams. They did struggle at times. We saw some hiccups throughout the game. So talk about any developments or any changes moving into week two. Is that going to be a season-long thing that you work on just to get better each and every week? Yeah, look,
our special teams unit right now is made up a lot of, kind of rotational guys and non-starters. We're trying to, save some of our starters a little bit from those reps. We feel like we have some depth, especially in some of our JV guys, to be able to go out there and do a job. But they're going to need time to develop, just like our offense and defense will. So, at times, some good things. Punt return was definitely a point of emphasis for us this week. With our returners being smart on, when we're trying to field a ball, when we're not. Those are simple fixes for us. Our kickoff unit had a chance to get on top of 2 footballs. And that we weren't able to come up with. They understand the importance of those possessions. So. And our kicking is going to continue to improve. So a lot of new guys and replacements in that area, so it's just going to take a little bit of time to improve.
Now you talked about rotational guys on special teams, but halfway through the third quarter, we saw a lot of fresh jerseys going in on both sides of the ball when the game was in hand. Tell us about how important it is for young guys to get those real game reps, on a Friday night, freshmen, sophomores.
Yeah, no, it's really vital to their development. What we're trying to see, a roster of 70, there is no team and no score that every kid's going to touch the field in a varsity game. There's just not enough minutes on the clock. But, to get some guys in that are sort of rotational type players, guys that, could see the field early, depending on how things go. It's good to get them out there and to get an actual look of what it looks like in an offensive defensive setting.
Now, let's talk about just a general health report for the Panthers. We know that's something that can plague a team and really hurt a team. You started out with 2 key injuries. And Luke Norman nursing a back injury, and then Dylan Compton didn't play in the scrimmage and was held back in the jamboree, but both of them look like they performed very well in week one. What is their status, and is there any other players that may be nursing any injuries?
Yeah, both of those are full go right now. Those were kind of some soft tissue deals that we wanted to make sure that they were good to go in the early preseason stuff. So both of them were full tilt last week through practice, had good weeks of practice, and were full go during the game. So no, they're fully ready to roll. J.J. Johnson has a little bit of a hamstring deal that we continue to kind of work through on a week-to-week basis. But as of right now, we're fully healthy and fully go.
All right, let's talk about tonight against St. Louis Catholic. This will be the 7th matchup between the two schools. They fell 0-1 in their season opener, and I'm pretty sure they're looking to bounce back. So give us some key matchups tonight that's going to help you win this game on the road.
Yeah, well, what's going to be key for us is taking care of the football offensively. We know that we're going to have opportunities to make plays. We want to make big plays when we have those opportunities. And then defensively, just making sure that we're aligned properly. They're going to give us some different type of sets, some different offensive looks. But if we can communicate well early on in the play clock and get ourselves lined up the way that we need to, that allows our defense to just play fast, play physical, which is what they do best. So, 0-1 football team. They lost 21 seniors last year and their head coach, so they're hungry. They got a lot to prove, and I think it'll be a good contest for us today on a beautiful Saturday.
Right, yeah, Saturday at noon. Kickoff is just moments away, and we'll bring you all that live action here shortly. That's Head Coach Jimmie Hillman of the Bunkie Panthers, and you're listening to the pregame show brought to you by Swole Sausage Connection, the official sausage of the Bunkie Panthers. We'll be right back with more. You're listening to Bunkie Panther Radio on Z95.9. All right, and welcome back to the pregame show sponsored by Swole Sausage Connection, the official tailgate sausage of the Bunkie Panthers. Got Coach Jimmie Hillman here, and Coach everybody didn't know, Panthers are here, and they're here to play some football.
Yeah,
3-0 to the start of this season. Did you expect your team to perform the way they did up to this point, being 3-0, but not only being 3-0, just putting up the points they're putting up each week and allowing so few?
Yeah.
Did you expect that dominance?
We did. Obviously, just because it's your expectation doesn't mean it's always going to happen. We're clicking early, and it shows on the scoreboard. But it's not so much about being 3-0. We kind of talked about that this week. It's not necessarily about being undefeated. It's about playing the brand of football that we want to play. And we feel like we've been doing that through 3 weeks, and this Friday will be another opportunity to prove that.
And what brand of football are you talking about? What brand of football is Bunkie football?
Well, we want to lean on our defense, and our defense has played really well. We want to be the most physical team that steps onto the field. We feel like we've been that through 3 weeks. That starts with us defensively, and then on offense, we want to take care of the football and we want to make big plays. That's the two things that we really want to be able to do, and we've done that, through 3 weeks in terms of limiting turnovers, limiting penalties, which is an area that we've been working on some. But when we have opportunities to make big plays, we've been making them lately. So that's been good to see, and that just the more big plays we can make on offense, the more confidence our defense can play with, which then gives us the ball more to repeat the cycle. So it's really been all 3 phases for us.
And the offense has been fun to watch with a lot of big plays so far this season. Last week in the home opener, Compton had 243 yards passing, 4 touchdowns, only 92 rushing yards, which we know the game was pretty much won by a certain point.
Right.
But
that was all in the first half for him right there. So.
Yeah, so over 240 passing compared to 92 rushing. Was that the game plan going into week 3 for the home opener, or is that just how it played out?
Look, for us, it's always going to be about what the defense is doing, where do we have an advantage at. And the Bulls was sending a lot of pressure, trying to get the ball out quick and playing a lot of man coverage. And to be frank, with the receiving core that we have, if you're going to play man coverage with no free safety, we're gonna put the ball over the top and make you cover us. So that's what we did. That's what we did early and often against the Bulls, and it worked out well.
Something that's kind of overlooked or maybe lost in the middle of all the excitement is the kicking game that I noticed.
Okay.
Patrick Lemoyne.
Yes.
We've seen him come out week 1 and get better in week 2. Last week did a fine job kicking extra points.
Yep. 5 for 7.
Yeah. So talk about his development and how important that is moving forward, especially in a tight game.
Yeah. He's developing a lot quicker and more than kind of what we anticipated early in the season. We've been working him some since spring training. He showed a little bit of ability, but really the game changer for him is every Sunday he goes over to LC and kicks with their kicker on Sunday afternoons, and kind of gets coached up by him, and he's been doing that for about a month now, and the growth that he has shown in the last 3 weeks since the season started has been night and day. So, not only do we feel confident sending them out there, but, we feel like, as long as we're moving the ball offensively, that, as soon as we score a touchdown, we're good to send them out there to it.
All right, Coach, let's talk about Central Catholic coming in to Bunkie 1-1. They did have a game canceled due to the hurricane. But they run a real busy offense with some pre-snap motion, and I saw on film they do a lot of screens, which is in the past has been probably an Achilles heel for the Bunkie defense because they're so aggressive and open for pursuit. So talk about how the defense prepared for that offense this week at practice.
Well, yeah, like you said, they do a lot of motions. a lot of moving their formations around. They're going to try to make us align a certain type of way. And then for them, it's about their running back, number one, getting him the ball in space in different ways, getting him out of the backfield, getting him in the screen game, which, like you said, the way that we play defense and how we go about our business is something that we have to work on. So it was good to be able to go into a week of practice knowing that one thing that we're going to have to work on was something that we weren't really that good at. So I thought they prepared really well and excited for the challenge tonight.
And offensively, how do you plan to attack their defense?
Well, they run a pretty strange defense compared to what we're used to seeing. Obviously, defense changes from week to week. We feel confident that we know the look that we're going to get, but they've played a lot of 3-1-7 with 3 high safety, sort of like a rob or spy type guy that'll cue the quarterback. We expect them to do that with our quarterback and the way that he plays. So it'll be an interesting look, but the game plan is going to be to lean on our run game early and then take our shots down the field when we have them.
Coach, thanks for taking the time. Good luck tonight. Let's go 1-0 this week.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right, that's Coach Jimmie Hillman of the Bunkie Panthers, ready to take the field as we host Central Catholic here tonight in Bunkie. That's a pregame show brought to you by Swole Sausage. Listen to the Bunkie Panther Radio on Z95.9. All right, welcome back, folks. I'm sitting here with head coach of your Bunkie Panthers, Mr. Jimmie Hillman. Coach, remained undefeated last week as you defeated the Central Catholic Eagles. Great game, 26-3. You won that game, but something did stand out. Panthers went 3-0 to start, 3-and-out to start the game for I think the first time this season. So that defense really, was really stout and probably a more improved defense than what we've seen in the first 3 weeks. Talk about that and overcoming that defensive front for the Eagles.
Yeah, we knew going in that the scheme and the type of defense that they were going to play was just very unique, very different. We not only did we not play it all this year, we hadn't played it last year either. So we knew there'd be some struggles early on, and at times we had some execution problems, some things that we had to make some adjustments to on the sideline in that first half to kind of have a little bit more success picking up some of their blitzes and stunts that they were giving us. So, it was good to be put in that situation and then offensively have to kind of overcome it to be able to move the ball down the field.
Now, defensively, they continue to just be dominant. Stopping teams. They only held the Eagles to 3 points. But there was a time early in the second half where it was a kind of a lull, and then all of a sudden, boom, Ron Patterson intercepts the ball, pick six, and you could just feel and see a big momentum shift. So talk about how defensive play can really affect the whole team, especially in a game like that.
No, our defense is going to lead us every week. They know that. That's the way we play football. That's, to be one of those 11 guys on that side of the ball, that's what it takes. And we were having some struggles offensively compared to how we'd been scoring the football in the first 3 weeks. So those guys really bowed their neck, gave up some big plays, had a big, goal line stand. To get them into that first field goal, they kind of got the ball down the field quick. But the way that we play, we're going to be aggressive. We're going to play man coverage, and it's because of guys like Ron Patterson, Kyle Johnson, and J.J. Johnson and what they're able to do on the back end. Lucas Mose as well, that really kind of shapes our defense. So for Ron, Ron had 2, Lucas had 1, take 3 balls out of the air, 3 turnovers for our defensive backs. It was really good to see.
Now let's talk about the game tonight. We host Winfield Tigers for homecoming night. Have you watched film this week, and have you taken anything away from film that you were able to focus on at practice?
Yeah, look, they really big and sound on the defensive front. Their front 7 is good. Offensively, they're gonna, similar to how they operated last year in the flex bone, wishbone, some T formation stuff, just trying to stack the box in. They'll challenge us a little bit on the inside. It's going to be important for us to have our pitch responsibility. They do a little bit of option and understand, our assignment, where we need to be defensively. And then for us offensively, it's going to be about, continuing to take what they give us. If they want to sit back, then we'll run the football. If they want to pressure us and bring their guys up, then we'll look to take our shots over the top.
That is homecoming night. It's something that the community and, alumni and the entire school look forward to. There's a lot going on, a lot of festivities and just activities all week, including a parade and everything. On this side of the bayou, it's a little different story. That means there's a lot of distractions for you and your team. So how do you keep the team focused on the task at hand with everything going on?
Well, look, there's a lot of distractions around. It's good to have all these people, all these alumni here at the game, and hopefully we can do our job at the end of the night, tonight and get a win. But for us, we know that all the different things that can happen throughout the week, the number one thing that makes for a good homecoming game, a good homecoming week, is a win on Friday. So that's our job. We'll go and we'll partake in some of the festivities and let the kids be kids, but at the end of the day, we need to get a win tonight for homecoming, and it's our responsibility as coaches and players to get it done.
Last thing, Coach, we talked about your message last week was staying locked in. Even heard a few players chatter about it at practice and so forth. What's your message this week against as you host the Winfield Tigers? Well,
look, for us, a lot that we've talked about this week is, we break the season up into 3 different phases. Phase 1 is the non-district schedule. Phase 2 will be district, and then Phase 3 is the playoffs. So right now, this is our last non-district game. We can't win a district championship tonight, so we're not even focused on district or anything like that. For us right now, it's about finishing the first phase, and that's with the Winfield Tigers tonight. Hopefully we can be undefeated in the non-district for 2 years in a row, and be playing good football come next week starting district time.
Coach, as always, thanks for your time and good luck.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right, that's Coach Jimmie Hillman of the Bunkie Panthers. It's homecoming night here at Bunkie as we host the Winfield Tigers. We want to thank you for tuning in to the Swole Sausage Connection pregame show here on Bunkie Panther Radio, Z95.9. All right, welcome back to the pregame show brought to you by Swole Sausage Connection. Kickoff is just moments away here tonight in Columbia as the Panthers take on the Caldwell Spartans. I'm sitting here with Coach Jimmie Hillman. Coach, we just had homecoming week. I know you're glad that's over, and I know you came out with a win. Last week at the game, Coach, we had a 2004 team recognized and some old coaches of mine that I got to visit with. And just, respect those guys. I know what they did for the program back then, and it kind of made me thinking about a question for you, because a lot of people don't know what you and your staff do 7 days a week or 6 days a week. I know you like to take Sundays off, so as everybody should. But take us through a typical week for a head coach, and let the people know what it takes to get a team prepared to compete on Friday night.
Okay. Well, the week starts on Sunday. Sunday after church, myself and Coach Reagan, our defensive coordinator, will usually spend a couple hours at the field house Sunday afternoon, kind of finishing up some of the scouting. Really, a lot of the scout work that we do from a coordinator standpoint happens during the week. But we'll kind of wrap up game plan on Sunday in terms of, what we're trying to do and what they're trying to do. The guys, obviously we're off school on Monday, so the guys will come to school. They'll come to the field house at 1 o'clock on Monday. We'll kind of have a team meeting and wrap up last Friday's game, talk a little bit about the plan for the week and some things that we need to focus on during practice. And then Monday is a defensive day. We start every week with defense. So we'll go through all of our, our typical hour and a half to 2 hour defensive practice on Monday. And then, we'll finish Monday with a JV and or JV junior high game, which that'll be wrapping up this Monday. And then Tuesday we'll have school. The guys will lift on Tuesday, and then we'll have an offensive practice. Wednesday is a little bit of film study, a week of practice, as well as showing some different things from the opponent. We'll have what we call specialty, which is kind of punt, kick, and return, working some of those things before practice. Then we'll get into a Wednesday practice, which is a bit of a mixed day, offense and defense with some special team stuff mixed in there, and some situational type, first and 10, third and long things. Then Thursday's the run through. We lift Thursday as well, the day before the game. So we got a good lift in today. than kind of our run through. We don't like saying the word walk through because it kind of changes the way that the kids move about the practice. So because they will actually walk. So we hit our run through, and then Friday game, Saturday morning break down the film, grade it, have breakfast with the team at 9, and watch the film with them and kind of critique some things. And then we end every week Saturday with stretch and stride on the track. We'll get out there and we'll kind of go through some dynamics and kind of get some of the soreness out. Send the guys home Saturday at lunchtime, and then start the whole process over again the next day.
So you only have a few hours in between Saturday and Sunday to spend with family, take care of your business, go to church, worship. But it is literally a 7-day-a-week job, and that's not to mention the laundry that has to be done, the cleaning that has to be done, and all the other intangibles.
I can take you through my weekly laundry, sweeping, mopping, plan of all that.
I wanted the listeners to understand that, the week of a coach and for the players, it is preparing each and every day, and it is doing it right, and that's how you get a team to be 5-0, is be consistent with how you prepare. So we want to thank you for that and your staff.
Well, look, it's a lot more than just what you see on Friday, that's for sure. But preparation is important. It's important for the kids to prepare for a week. So it's the same thing for us coaches. We've got to be prepared to be able to, give the kids the best advantage that we can.
Real quick, Coach, Jatarian Gaines, we saw him sideline last week. We also had J.D. Smith come out. Can you just give us an assessment on their injuries, and if you can't move forward with them, just what's the status on them, and how does that affect your running game?
Yeah, J.D. Smith should be good to go tonight. He kind of had a little bit of an oblique deal kind of pop up on him, late in the game on Friday. He's been able to practice this week, so he should be good to go. Jatarian's been dealing with a foot sprain. That kind of flared up on him some more this week as well, plus an illness that he's kind of been fighting, an upper respiratory deal for a week. So we sidelined him last week. He's been able to go some this week. I'm not sure what his usage will be tonight.
All right, Coach. Caldwell. We're over here in Caldwell. They haven't had the best of seasons, 0-5. They're really struggling. But sometimes that could be a struggle for a good football team, too, because you can overlook the team or play down to them. As a coach, how do you keep your players from overlooking a football team or playing down to another team?
Well, for us, it's important because week 1 of district, we fully anticipate them to, want to restart their season. They're 0-5 right now, and then, they're going to look to try to get in the win column this week and control their own destiny in the district. So we know that. We're expecting a fight going in. There was a fight last year with this team. So for us, though, it's about controlling weak control, and for us, that's our mentality, the way that we practice this week, our focus on, tonight, and just being prepared to, do what we need to do to play our best brand of football, not necessarily what the opponent, dictates.
Yeah, some teams, around the state, you see them come alive in district play. No matter what their non-district schedule is. Phase 1, as you talked about last week, is non-district. Phase 2 is district, and Phase 3 is postseason. Yeah. So going into Phase 2, what are you looking for, or what areas are you looking for your team to focus on here in Phase 2 district play?
Well, number one is for us is defensively. That's where we're going to start every week. That's where our focus is going to be, and those guys continuing to play the way that they've been playing. They're going to lead us every step of the way, so making sure that our emphasis is right on the defensive side of football. From there, look, we can do a better job in a couple of different areas. One major thing is penalties. We're kind of hot and cold with penalties. We'll have a game where it's not really a problem at all, and then we'll have a game where we have 12, 13 penalties. So that's definitely an area that we want to improve on as we move in the district. Playing clean, and executing the way that we need to play penalty free.
Coach, good luck tonight. And, getting a win on the road is always big. Getting a district win on the road is always bigger.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
Go Coach W. Thank you, Coach.
Yeah, thank you.
That's Coach Jimmie Hillman of the Bunkie Panthers. Kick off at just moments away. You're listening to the pregame show brought to you by Swole Sausage Connection, the official tailgate sausage of the Bunkie Panthers. This is Bunkie Panther Radio on Z95.9. Hello, everybody. This is Josh Sauseda sitting here with Head Coach Jimmie Hillman of the Bunky Panthers, and this is the pregame show brought to you by Swole Sausage Connection. Coach, it's so good to be sitting with you this week. You remain undefeated, 7-0, but this week's the big one. It's a game that's been circled on everybody's schedule since last week. It's something that we've tried not to look forward to, but we knew it was coming, and now it's finally here. Get on the road, and we're here in Jena to take on the Jena Giants, which could be the district championship. So, first of all, just tell us, how's practice been this week, preparation? Have you done anything for any extra motivation, or has it just been focused business as usual?
No, practice has been great this week. We've been really focused. I think there's definitely been a rise in the intensity and some of the drill work and some of the things that we're doing, but leadership in all of our position group has been key. Guys understand, you take every week serious, but we know the opponent that we're going to see tonight, and this week at practice we've seen a lot of focus, a lot of energy. Not a whole lot had to come from me to get to that point. It's really the leaders on this team that are locked in and focused for this week, and they're excited about getting a chance to play these guys again.
Now, last year they got the better of us at home. Incredible atmosphere. We're expecting the same atmosphere tonight at their place. I believe the game was 38-22 last year, and the year before they beat us. So what is the difference that is going to be a different outcome? What is going to be the difference tonight to get this win here in Jena?
Well, look, obviously, knowing how this team plays football and what they're trying to do, we're going to have to control the line of scrimmage. That's something that they're going to look to do on the offensive and defensive side of the ball. They want to run the ball, and they want to stop us from running the ball, So we feel good. We feel really good defensively, just the way we've been playing football, the way those guys have been, been flying to the football, and some of the looks that we played already this year are similar to what we're going to see tonight. So defensively, we're just going to have to be good in our keys, make our reads, and fit where we're supposed to fit. And then, just make plays. Last year, there's some untimely plays that, things just didn't go our way. Some 50-50 balls, some missed tackles, things like that where, if we make a few more of those plays, then the game's the other way. So tonight we're going to have to just lean on our leadership, on our experience that we have to, when they get into those moments and those big plays, they'll be ready for it.
You talked about controlling the line of scrimmage and defense having to read their keys. They will be tested tonight. We know that Jena's got a good running game. And Coach Rourke just does a really good job of play calling. Can't talk about the Panthers' success without talking about the defense. 0 points allowed in district play, but how will they be tested tonight specifically, and what can we see from Jena offensively?
Well, this is definitely going to be the most disciplined offense we've faced all year. What's tough about Jena is, you show up on a Sunday afternoon and watch some 10-year-olds in Jena play football. You see them running this offense, So these kids have been doing this for a long time. They know what to do. They know what to look for. There's not a lot of confusion that we can do to them. So it's just going to be line up and go play, One thing we've talked about all week is just spot the ball. Put the ball down and we got to go play. They know what we're going to do. We're not hiding anything. Defensively, offensively, you know what we do. We know who we are. They know who we are. It's the same thing the other way. So at the end of the day, we got to put the ball down and some guys got to go play, and we got to figure out who wants to play the most.
You said they know who you are, but I couldn't help but notice a couple different wrinkles installed this week on offense, particularly. So tell us about any formations or installation packages, and how is that going to play into the strategy and your game plan tonight?
Yeah, well, look, we've got some things formation-wise that we've added into our offense. Nothing really too new, but there's some sets that we think, some ways that we can align their defense to some ways that we're going to line up, and maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. But at the end of the day, no matter how we line up and what we're doing in some certain packages, we got to execute our base offense, and that's just what it's going to be. We'll add some wrinkles throughout the year, just to kind of give a different look, but at the end of the day, we got to be able to run the football, we got to take care of the ball, and we got to be able to make plays in the passing game when we get an opportunity.
Coach, week after week we talk about team improvement and certain areas of focus for the team, but let's talk about you as a coach and your staff on what y'all have improved on. What are some things that you and your staff have improved on or constantly worked on since week one up until this point?
No, I think as a staff we've really started to gel together. Obviously this is year 2 of all of us working together. We only added in one new coach and a young guy, and he's been doing really well learning. So for us it's just kind of the familiarity of knowing what we're doing, what we're in our system, feeling confident in what we're looking for, developing depth, in some of our younger guys, which we've had an opportunity to do. But just the commitment to the process, film study, the weight room, practice, being with the kids, that's really one thing that we've tried to improve on this year. And I think as a staff, we've really done that.
Coach, thank you for your time, your dedication, week after week. So much you do off the field as well as get these guys prepared on the field. Let's go 1-0 this week.
Yes, sir. Go Panthers.
That's Coach Jimmie Hillman of the Bunkie Panthers. This is the pregame show brought to you by Swole Sausage Connection. We'll be right back. You're listening to Bunkie Panther Radio on Z95.9. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the pregame show brought to you by Swole Sausage Connection. This is Josh Sauseda sitting here with Coach Jimmie Hillman, and we've got senior night here at Gene Britton Field Panther Stadium, where the Panthers will host their last regular season home game, hosting the Vidalia Vikings. Coach, how are you feeling, and how's practice been this week overall, especially with the weather yesterday?
No, it's been good. We're excited. Obviously coming off of a big win last week, but it's senior night. One last guaranteed chance, at a home game here for these guys that have committed so much to this program. So, no, we're excited. It's been a good week of practice, and we'll be ready to roll.
You mentioned that coming off of a big win last week, took on the Gina Giants at their house and just dominated 41-0. Talk about the importance of that game and what kind of statement it makes for your program, especially in Phase 2, getting ready for Phase 3.
Well, I think just, from the outside looking in, it kind of, legitimizes us a little bit in some people's eyes. But for us internally, it's kind of that was kind of that hump that we needed to get over, was to beat that team, beat teams like them, that we hadn't really shown yet. And I'd say the focus, the intensity those guys played with all night, is really good to see. So, coming off of that win, our guys feel like, that if they put their mind to it, there isn't any team that they can't beat.
So let's talk about Vidalia for a second. Haven't had the best year from a Viking team, but they do have a mobile quarterback. I watched a little bit of film, and I think everybody understands that he's a threat at the quarterback position with his athletic ability. What adjustments have you made this week to account for his running ability and slow him down?
Well, we've practiced a couple of things that we need to make sure, some day one fundamental stuff that we need to be good about, kind of bottling him up. We have a couple packages that we've kind of looked at, as a way to, if he starts running the ball effectively against us, kind of some ways that we're going to try to, eliminate that. But at the end of the day, those guys just got to go out there and execute defensively. We've got to do our job and be where we're supposed to be, make tackles when we're supposed to. And, we've done it all year, so tonight will be a new test. This will be kind of our first really mobile quarterback that we faced in district, so kind of a new test for us, but those defensive guys will be excited about the challenge.
Can you give us an injury report on the team? I know last week Zion came out of the game with a shoulder injury, and a few other guys have missed practice this week. So can you just give us an assessment on that? Yeah,
we've had a couple guys dinged up. It was a physical game last week. Zion Lee and John Keith Lavallee. Both will dress tonight. Both will go tonight. Just to depend on how much will be a game time type decision. And we've had a little bit of the illness come around. But everybody, who was sick this week that had to miss some time, they're back tonight, and we'll keep them hydrated and kind of depending on the flow of the game, we'll kind of determine how much they play.
So it is senior night, and I just want to give you the opportunity to say anything about this senior class and the impact they've made on you and the program. Considering that this is probably one of the best seasons Panthers have ever had in history.
Yeah, look, I'm really thankful for these guys. Obviously, I've been here for just about 2 years now. This group has been, 17-2 the whole time that I've been here with them. So really proud of them, the way that they, kind of bought into me when I got here, and have led this program for the last 2 years, and just the commitment that they've shown, over the last 4 or 5 years for a lot of these guys, to this program, to kind of get us to the point that we're at right now. We owe them a lot, and we'll hopefully be able to send them out with a big win tonight.
And lastly, Coach, what was your message of the week? I know you change it up week to week, changing focus as it should be. What was your message this week?
The message this week was all gas, no brakes. That's kind of what we've talked about all week long. We want to make sure that we're coming off of a big emotional win, last Friday, but we're not done. We need to continue to step on the gas, continue to move forward. as we finish up phase 2 and start moving towards the postseason, we don't want to slow down or take any steps back. We want to carry all of our momentum forward, as far as we can take it. So, staying on the gas. That's kind of the focus tonight.
Coach, thank you for your time, and go coach a W tonight.
Yes, sir. Go Panthers.
All right, so the Panthers look to keep the pedal to the metal and take a win here tonight at home as they host the Vidalia Vikings for this district matchup. That was Coach Jimmie Hillman. I'm Josh Sauseda. We'll be right back. You're listening to the pregame show brought to you by Swole Sausage Connection. This is Bunky Panther Radio on Z95.9. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Swole Sausage Connection pregame show. This is Josh Sauseda sitting here with Coach Jimmie Hillman for some Week 10 football talk. It is the 74th meeting between one of the oldest rivalries in the state of Louisiana for high school football. Bunky Panthers on the road tonight in Marksville, Warren Douglas Stadium, to take on the Marksville Tigers. This is going to be the 74th meeting. Bunky does lead the series 37-33, but there's been some stretches where Marksville's had the ball, cat skin. Bunky had the cat skin. Currently, Bunky has the cat skin. Coach, I know you want to keep that cat skin at the field house. Overall, this week at practice, I know we had some rain. Overall, what kind of work did you get in this week?
I thought it was a good week. Early in the week the weather was good. Wednesday we caught a lot of rain, but there could be some rain, in the game tonight. So we practiced outside Wednesday in some wet conditions and got a chance to snap a wet football and do all those type of things. So, look, the week's been sharp. It's an emotional week. Guys are really excited about the game. There's not a lot of words that got to be said. It's just kind of make sure that we know what we want to do, how we want to execute, and then just get the kickoff.
Now, this is the first time that I've interviewed a coach that has been on both sides of the cat skin. You came from Marksville as head coach there. Head coach there 1 year, is that correct?
Yeah, 1 year as head coach.
And now head coach at Bunky, of course. So you've been on both sides of the cat skin. In your experience, what are your thoughts on this rivalry game, especially to end the regular season? What does it mean for each program, and especially Bunky?
Yeah, no, look, I think it's a great rivalry. Anytime you can have two schools having played each other for 70-plus years, that's a great thing. There's not a lot of games. There's not a lot of rivalries in Louisiana that have been going on for that long. So I think it's great. I think it's great for both communities to kind of come together and to see kind of how the games have gone over the decades, and certain teams have kind of, Marksville's had it for a while, and then Bunky will have it for a while. So I think those are good things. But all in all, I mean, look, it's another game. It's the next game on the schedule. It's a district game. When I was first at Marksville as an assistant coach, it was always a non-district game, in the early part of the season. So now it's a Week 10 district game. It kind of gives you a little bit of that playoff type feel, towards the end of the season. So it's good. We're excited. The kids are excited about it. And like I said, the best thing for me as a coach is I don't have to say anything during the week. They know what's at stake, and they're excited about practice, excited about playing. So
there's a lot at stake this week, Coach. A chance to end this regular season undefeated, something that hasn't been done since 2003. A chance to move higher in the rankings, to get a good road to the Dome. But let's talk about Marksville and their offense and defense. They're going to give you their best game tonight. They have, Bunky has a target on their back. They're going to give you their best game. What do you think you're going to see offensively and defensively from Marksville?
Yeah, look, I think, like you said, it's a big game for us. They know that. They know kind of what's at stake for us and what's at stake for them as well. I mean, it'd be a big win for them and for PowerPoints and things like that in the postseason. So, but we know we're going to get their best shot. But they're going to come out swinging. We're expecting them to, kind of do, by Week 10 you kind of are who you are, So we know some things that we're going to see. I'm sure we'll see some trickeration and things like that as well. But what's going to be important for us, and we've kind of talked about all week, is just executing, making sure that we know what we're trying to do and that we're doing our job on our side of the ball in all three phases. We've kind of started to do that the last few weeks, and we'll just look to continue and do it again tonight.
Coach, earlier in the season, we talked about some goals that you had set at the beginning of the season. I just want to remind everybody, you can remind me of what those goals were and how on track, or what's the progress of the team meeting those team goals?
Yeah, so we had 3 goals that we set for the beginning of the year in terms of the regular season, just some things statistically that we want to try to achieve. We wanted to score 50 touchdowns in the 10 regular season games. We surpassed that a while ago, but we're at 64 right now. So we've met that goal for the year. We wanted to allow less than 150 points, which we've allowed 46 at this point in the year. So we pretty much have met that goal as well. And then penalties was the third thing that we wanted to track this year. We wanted to average 6 or less penalties at the end of the season. So right now we're averaging 6.8 penalties a game. So hopefully we can play clean this week and accomplish all 3 of our regular season goals.
And, Coach, one of my favorite questions that I ask you every week, 2 weeks ago, your message was spot the ball. Last week, I think, was keep your foot on the gas. What is the message or focus of the week tonight in Week 10?
It's just to execute. That's it. It's a big game. It's an emotional game. It means a lot to everybody. We don't need to be anything that we're not. We need to be who we are. We need to execute in all 3 phases. And by doing that, we'll be able to, get the results that we're looking for.
Coach, I know that the Panther Nation is proud to see the progress of the team that has made huge strides under your guidance. So, on behalf of the Bunkie community, we want to say thank you and good luck tonight.
Yeah, thank you. Go Panthers.
That's Coach Jimmie Hillman of the Bunkie Panthers. Big rivalry Catskin game here in Marksville, Louisiana. We'll be right back. This is the Swole Sausage Connection pregame show here on Bunkie Panther Radio, Z95.9. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the pregame show brought to you by Swole Sausage Connection. This is Josh Sauseda sitting here with head coach of the Bunkie Panthers, Coach Jimmie Hillman. Coach, I know you and the team didn't get to celebrate like you wanted to a couple weeks ago, with an incident that happened. But you did finish the regular season 10-0, and you won the first district championship since 2009. So I wanted to congratulate you on that and just tell us what that means for you and the team.
Oh, it's great. That was never the goal, but that was definitely something that we wanted to accomplish this year. And for those kids, the work that they put in, January until now, to see it pay off that way is great. And happy for the kids, happy for the community.
And you had a bye week last week. A meet hosted Sarah T. Reed, and we host a meet tonight here at home. But a bye week, tell us what are the pros and some of the cons of having a bye week, having that rest off.
Well, the good thing is obvious. You automatically advance around. No matter what the bracket looks like, you still got to go win a game. So you do get to, get kind of that automatic win. You do get a chance to kind of rest a couple of nagging injuries maybe that, you can give some kids a little bit of time off to recover. And the negative side is, you didn't play a game. Football's kind of a game of routines and schedules and things like that. So you do kind of get off of kind of the normal a little bit. But I think we had a good bye week. I think we had some good competition during that week to kind of keep the energy where it needed to be, and a good week of preparation this week. So hopefully it'll pay off for us.
Last year you finished 9-1. You also had a first-round bye last year, but Episcopal came in and ended the Panthers' season. But you said the vibe's a little different this year. Okay, tell us about that.
I think just the experience that's returning in the room. With 16 starters returning, 16 guys that were in that game last year. Having that experience back, having that leadership. We've had a great 2 weeks of preparation for this opponent. And it's less about, our season could end tonight and more about, making sure that it doesn't. So I trust the guys. I trust the leadership that we have in the room between our upperclassmen, and it's going to be a war tonight. So
the 8-meet Warriors, if anybody knows high school football, they know that they're just a talented football team year after year. Last 20 years, they've been to the Dome 6 times, won 3 of those. Mm-hmm. So they have speed, athleticism all over the field. What areas do you think you have an advantage tonight over the Warriors?
Well, I think we match up well in a lot of ways. Watching them on tape, I see a lot of ourselves. So in terms of a team that's going to, rely on athleticism, toughness, and speed, and so that's something that we're used to, just from practicing against each other. We experience that a lot. So for us, it's going to be about taking care of the football. In the postseason, your possessions are shorter. You don't get the ball as many times. We got to make sure that we make it count when we get it offensively. And then defensively, we've got to do what we've done all year, and that's stop the run, pressure the quarterback, and cover wide receivers. So one aspect of the game that I'm always
that I always think is important is mental toughness. You got, physicality, speed, athleticism, or whatever. But how do you mentally prepare a team to go to battle against A-Meat Warriors? And what's going to be your message before taking the field?
Well, mental toughness is something that starts in January. That's an all-year thing. And at the end of the day, we talked about it yesterday. There's going to be things tonight that aren't going to go our way. We need to, how we respond from those moments is what's going to be the difference in winning and losing. And having that mental toughness, having that leadership, that's what's going to be important. This is a championship-level program. Like you said, 6 times to the Dome in the last 20 years. We know the type of confidence they're going to come over and play with. The message this week is real simple. Just don't back down. We're not backing down anybody. They're a good team, but we're a good team too. So we're going to get out there and we're going to compete for 48 minutes and let the scoreboard take care of itself.
Coach, thank you for your time, and let's go get a W this week.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
That's Coach Jimmie Hillman of the Bunkie Panthers. Round 2 of the playoffs happening here in just a few moments at Gene Britton Field Panther Stadium as the Panthers host the A-Meat Warriors. This is a Swole Sausage Connection pregame show here on Bunkie Panther Radio, Z95.9. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to this Thanksgiving week edition to the pregame show brought to you by Swole Sausage Connection. I'm Josh Sauseda, and I'm here with head coach Jimmie Hillman. Coach, congratulations on a big win last week, round 2 of the playoffs, hosting A-Meat, and we're going to get started with some questions regarding some questions. There's a lot of questions surrounding Bunkie this week all year about your strength of schedule, have you been tested, and could Bunkie win the big game? All those questions were answered, and tell us how it felt to answer all those questions.
It was great. It was great for our kids. We knew what we were capable of, but to get out there and do it and kind of, like you said, answer all those questions, it was good. A lot of confidence was built last Friday night. A-Meat's a quality program and has done a whole lot. So to be able to get out there and compete with them and win in the way that we did, answered a lot of questions for everybody else and kind of reassured us of what we already knew.
So A-Meat was a team with size and speed, and the defense just set the tone all night, getting pressure on Franklin all night and disrupting their entire offense. So tell us your thoughts on the way the defense performed last week.
I thought they played phenomenal. To get out there and cover those 4 receivers the way that we did, we gave up a couple of big plays, but when you play as aggressive as we do defensively, that's to be expected. But the way our front played, and Luke Norman and Kent Franks, the way that the pressure the quarterback that they put on him, to get sacks and get them off a rhythm early was huge for us, and then allow our DBs to get out there and cover. So those guys have done it every step of the way this year, and Friday night was another big answer for them.
So let's talk about cramps. There were quite a few players that went down, and especially in some key downs and key areas of the game. I guess you can mark that up to just the starters not really playing 4 quarters at all this year with the blowouts that we've had. So tell us, how do you mitigate that moving forward, especially this week?
Well, I think it definitely was a wake-up call for some of those guys to, just in the way that they take care of their bodies, knowing that, yes, we haven't really played, a lot of full games this year, but we've got to be able to, be disciplined in ourselves throughout the week and have ourselves hydrated and ready to roll for the end of ball games like that. But look, the bottom line is, it's playoff football. You're going to be pushed harder than you've been pushed all year. So some of that's to be expected a little bit, but we've run a little extra this week and kind of done a couple things to try to mitigate that. So hopefully, we'll be able to do that on Friday.
So let's talk about Jules Sumner. Totally different team than A-Meat. Wing T, run some misdirection, some reach, have 3 good running backs. Don't really pass the ball a whole lot. So a totally different team than what you faced last week. How did you prepare and practice in facing that style of offense? Well,
I think we've had a solid week of practice. This is an offense that we've faced before a couple of times now, so we're familiar with it. From a philosophy standpoint, it is different from what a lot of teams do. But for us, it's just going to be about reading our keys, being where we're supposed to be on defense, all 11 guys. This is the type of offense where if one guy's not doing his job, they can really make you pay for it. So, just kind of putting that pressure and that responsibility on our defensive guys to, make sure don't fall for the eye candy. Do your job. Be disciplined about where you're supposed to be, and then if we can do that, we should be fine.
So how do you match up against Jules Sumner offensively? Do you see any advantages there, and who are you leaning on to have a big game tonight?
Well, I think similar to how it's been all year, it's just kind of going to depend on what it is that Jules Sumner wants to do to us defensively. We're going to go at it with a pretty balanced attack. Obviously, we want to establish the line of scrimmage with our running backs and Zion Lee and Jatarin Gaines, and see if we can run the football some. And then from there we'll set up the pass and the play action pass, and just kind of whatever it is that what they're planning to do, we'll know early on and look to take advantage of it that way.
And my favorite question I get to ask you every week: what was your message of the week to your team?
Yeah, the message this week has been to elevate. We're undefeated. We're in the quarterfinals for the first time in forever, and all those good things. But our mindset has to be that it's not good enough. We need to elevate our performance. We need to elevate the way we prepare, the way we practice, the way we play. All those things have to continue to get better because people talk about momentum and the ball's rolling and this, that, and the other. But at the end of the day, the teams that make it to the big show, they get better every week this time of the year. So for us, it's just about building off of what we did last week, elevating ourselves in all areas that we can, and hopefully come out with another win.
Thank you for your time, Coach. Good luck.
Yes, sir. Go Panthers.
It's Coach Jimmie Hillman of the Bunkie Panthers. It's quarterfinal playoff time here in Kentwood, Louisiana. Bunkie Panthers set to take on the Jules Sumner Cowboys in just a few minutes. This is Josh Sauseda. You're listening to Bunkie Panther Radio on Z 95.9. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the pregame show brought to you by Swole's Sausage Connection. This is Josh Sauseda here with Coach Jimmie Hillman for this semifinal playoff game edition of the pregame show. Coach, last week went to Jules Sumner, came out with a historical win, reaching the semifinals for the first time since '88. But you went into halftime. You went into the locker room in that game trailing 6-0. So I just have to ask you, what was your message at halftime to come out and get the team going and come out with a win?
Really and truly for us, it was just about staying patient, understanding that we had some opportunities offensively and defensively in that first half to kind of be on top and be where we wanted to be. But, we did some things, ourselves to kind of, help put them in those situations. And they're a good football team, so they took advantage of it as they should. But, we just wanted to be patient, stay true to what we were going to do. We made a few small adjustments on both sides of the ball, and, we're able to, kind of fix things when we came out of half.
So the offense struggled, for most of the night. You were able to put up a score, but the defense really put the whole team on their back. And so I want you to talk about the defense and just that moment where number 0, Ron Patterson, picked off that ball and took it to the house.
Yeah, very proud of our defense. The fight that they showed in that second half, all game, but in that second half when we really needed them most. They've been challenged all year. They know. They've been told, since last January that, we're going to go as they go. And that's part of being a defensive player. That's part of being one of those 11 is understanding that the team's success is going to be based around how you play. And I thought they rose to the occasion and then capped it off, with Ron Patterson, the pick six, was huge. First thing I did when he caught it is what I always do when we get an interception is grab people and start moving them back to make sure we don't get no penalty on our sideline. But, watching them sprint down the sideline and then chasing after him at the end is a great feeling, and really, really proud of that kid, really happy for him to, step up and make that play in that moment.
The style of football game last week, offense didn't have many possessions, so it really didn't look like y'all got in a rhythm too much. So what have you worked on this week at practice to get that offense back on track?
Well, that's part of what happens in the playoffs as well. Obviously, when you face a run team like that, they're going to limit your possessions. We had 6 in the game. They had 6 possessions. So understanding that we're going to get the ball less as we continue to go, we've got to capitalize on momentum. Defenses are very good and smart at this stage. They're going to take things away from us. We've got to make adjustments quick. But for us offensively this week, it's just been about finding new ways against a new team on how to move the ball, how to be efficient in what we do, and making sure that we understand when we get certain looks what we want to get into to try to take advantage.
So let's talk about Dunham. Not often do we line up offensively against an opponent whose defensive line is smaller than us. That's the case here tonight. but they are a scrappy defense. So what do you know about their defense, and what's the offensive game plan to move the ball, like you said?
Their defense is very, very disciplined, very well coached. They're going to be exactly where they're supposed to be. You can see the scheme. You can see what they're trying to do, and their guys execute. They fly to the football. Their defensive line is small, but two of their best players on their defense are on that defensive line. So we know that's where they get a lot of their confidence from, is up front and what they're able to do by creating some penetration. So for us, we need to get into some looks. We need to run the football, in particular in between the tackles. That's going to start with our offensive line and our running backs, making some holes and then reading it and hitting it to give ourselves, shots in the play action game and some of our screen stuff. But we're going to have to see how they align, see what they want to do, make our adjustments quick, and when we have opportunities to make plays, we're going to have to go make them.
And now the matchup that's definitely going to be more than the price of admission. Number 1 prospect, class of 2027, Elijah Haven, going up against the number 1 defense in the Bunkie Panthers. Dunham has a very high-powered passing game and a lot of playmakers. So what's the game plan to disrupt their offense?
Well, they're going to play with a lot of tempo, and that's going to be really key for us. We are who we are. We're not trying to reinvent the wheel this week. We have a couple of looks, a couple of packages that we want to get into in some key spots to kind of mix things up. But, we're going to get out there. We're going to play man coverage on their receivers. We got to match up, with some certain guys that we want to see following receivers around. And then the rest of the guys got to get to the quarterback. He's a phenomenal player, and you can see why and everything that he does. But there ain't a throw he can't make. But we've got to pressure him. We've got to get him out of rhythm. And whoever gets there first has to wrap him up, and then we've got to get more guys on him because he's big, he's hard to bring down, and so. But for us, we're going to pressure him. We're going to make them make hard throws and make big plays, and see where the chips fall from there.
And lastly, Coach, your message of the week.
It's real simple. Just punch your ticket. We're just all it is right now is these 48 minutes in front of us to punch our ticket to the big dance. Whatever it takes to get it done, offensively, defensively, special teams. This is going to be a tough game. Everybody that's left in it right now, there's 4 teams left. They all got a shot to win it all. So for us, it's just about doing whatever it takes, punching our ticket to New Orleans for next week.
Coach, thank you and good luck.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
It's Coach Jimmie Hillman of the Bunkie Panthers. They're looking to punch their ticket to the big dance at the Superdome for their first state championship appearance next week. Dunham hosting Bunkie tonight for the semifinals. This is Bunkie Panther Radio on Z 95.9.